Hallelujah. The two scriptures to read today. First one's from James chapter 2 in verse 26, and it says, "For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without corresponding action is dead also." Second one's in Colossians chapter 3 and verse 17, and says, "And whatever you are producing through both the things that you speak and the things that you carry out, everything should be done in the name of the Lord Jesus, while continually giving thanks to God the Father through him." Title of my message today, From Plans to Action. From plans to action. Last week we looked at building plans for health and wealth, and planning to move into these things that God has for us. Well, did you make some plans? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. And if you made some plans, have you started to put them into practice yet? Well, here's where the excuses begin, don't they? So you've tapped the spiritual forces that are within your spirit, forces of faith and love and hope, and you prepared your mind to release them by setting up some good plans of action. Now those plans must be released into this world. And they can only be released in two ways. You should know this by now. They can only be released through words and through action. Now, here's two areas where all of us fail at some time. Some of us are all talk and no action. We got plenty of words. Oh, great swelling words. Always saying what we're going to do. But we never get around to doing it, do we? Then we get those who believe that action must be done now. I'm not going to wait. And they go off prematurely without even discussing first what needs to be done. They get all excited. They get all stirred up. They get all motivated. They make a choice. They say, let's go. Let's do it. They didn't talk about it first. They didn't use words first. They didn't build or prepare for the action that's to follow. So I want to look today at the importance of both words and action in releasing the spiritual forces that are within and in bringing those plans that we made into fruition and making them a reality in our lives. Now, words are very important because words build a template in the soul. And we saw in the way of blessing in the past that these spiritual forces have to be released via the soul. But the problem with the soul is the soul very often puts up a resistance, and it's difficult to let these forces out. So we taught on building a template, a pattern in the soul, so that when these spiritual forces rise up, they have a channel by which they can be released and can make things do. Now, why are words so important in building a template in the soul? Because the most important thing in your soul is what you see. If you can't see yourself doing the things that you plan, you'll never get around to doing them. If they don't become so real to you that you're almost living them in your mind already, they'll never actually take place. And words have a very powerful ability to create pictures in our minds. Words can affect our minds and can affect our feelings and our emotions. Just look at somebody who hardly ever talks. Seldom describe that person as a ball of fire, could you? They just don't show anything. They don't show any emotion. They don't show any action. They just sit there thinking. And they're probably thinking great thoughts, but those thoughts are not getting any further than their heads. Words are a powerful force because words allow what's inside a person to come out. And when somebody opens their mouth to speak, you know what's going on inside of them. Some people are afraid to speak because they think of that old saying that says, it's better to be silent than to be thought a fool, than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So we're afraid to open our mouths in case we show what's really inside. But you see, until you open your mouth and begin to speak words, what's inside cannot be released. It will remain there. So if you're not a person who likes to talk much, then you better start learning to talk. You say, well, what do I talk about? Talk about your plans. Talk about your goals. Talk about your dreams. Talk about what you would like to accomplish for the Lord and what you'd like God to do in your life. Talk about them. And while you talk about them, you start to see them and you start to visualize the possibilities that can exist. See, words allow us to tap into our spirits because words come from our spirits. Animals cannot speak words because they don't have a spirit. Your spirit gives you the ability to speak words, and the words that you speak are containers of the power that's in your spirit. So if you want to let out that power, words are the best way to let it out. Well, sometimes what we let out is not very positive and not very powerful. You know, sometimes you need to let the water run a little bit until it gets clear. You know, we have a borehole here that we can use to fill our pool. And every time we try and fill the pool with it, out comes this green, gushing, horrible water, and the pool stays green for days. So we've learned to just let it run for a while. Sometimes really a long time before the water eventually starts to clear. So, you know, don't be afraid when you open your mouth, junk's going to come out. You know, the first while, you're going to be speaking junk. It goes the same with prophecy, you know. First time you open your mouth to speak a prophetic word, you stumble and mumble and bumble, you know what you're talking about. And you know the exact same thing happens when you journal. Because journaling is writing down words that come out of your spirit. So if you want to practice this process of letting words out, start with journaling. Because then you're not talking to anybody. There's nobody out there who can say you're talking rubbish. It's just you and the Lord in your journal. Write it down. Practice the flow. And get all the dirty junk out first. And eventually it'll start to come. I've seen so many people who are afraid to journal because the first journals they try are full of junk. Somebody brings me their journal. They say, what do you think of my journal? I say, that came from your mind, didn't it? It didn't come from the Lord. But you see, you start there. You start by clearing your mind. And you start the flow. And as you continue to flow and speak those words, it will begin to clear. And after a while, the anointing of God will begin to come up out of your spirit. And then the other thing that speaking words does is it stirs your emotions. Now, very often when we come to have a time of worship here, we come carrying the loads and our cares. I woke up this morning and I felt like going back to bed. The last thing I feel like doing is coming and singing and being happy. You ever felt that way when you come to a meeting? Just get the song service over, please. But you know, if you force yourself to speak those words, and sing those words, after a while, something starts to happen inside. It starts to churn, starts to bubble. Your emotions start to get stirred. And by the time you're finished, you're feeling a lot better than what you were when you started. See, those of you who preach, sometimes when you stand up to preach, you feel the same way. Yeah, I don't feel like preaching today. You need to preach yourself happy till the flow comes, because it will come. But if you don't speak the words, it's not going to happen. So speaking words stirs the emotions, and actually it produces hope in your heart. Because with your emotions and with the pictures that come in your mind, as you start seeing the things that you desire, as maybe it is possible. Maybe it is possible that I could lose this belly fat. Maybe it is possible that I could get some friends. Maybe it is possible that we could get more finances in. Maybe it is possible that I can afford to buy that thing that I've really desired. As you speak and your emotions flow and the pictures come, after a while it starts to become a possibility. And without hope is one of the three forces. And we always ignore that one. Got to have strong faith. And yes, I've got the love of the Lord. But without hope, you got no direction for that power whatsoever. Because you see, hope is like the guns, the sights on the gun. See, faith is like the bullet that has the power. Love is the trigger that pulls it. But if you don't have somewhere to aim that bullet, you're going to hit the moon. You're not going to hit anything. It's not going to accomplish anything. So hope is a very important force. And speaking these words over and over again can help create the hope. Well, you say, where do I start? What do I speak? Well, probably one of the first things you can speak, assuming you did make out some of your plans and you did write them down. And when you did that, actually words were involved because you wrote those words down. And perhaps at the time you wrote them and you were journaling and you had a flow in the spirit, you felt inspired and you thought, this is great, I can do this. But a week from now, you can't even remember what you wrote down. So what are the chances are you going to put those plans into action? So what was my plan again? I know it sounded pretty good when I wrote it down. I thought it was a pretty good idea that came to me there. But what was it again? Come on. There's only one way that you're going to remember it, and that's to pull it out and read it again. And one of the most powerful things that you can do is to take what you've written and read it out loud. Somehow it adds an extra power. When you take what you wrote down there, well, I'm going to stop eating this. I'm going to have smaller meals. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When you start speaking it out, you find it starts to become more real to you. And then you start to remember it. And it builds pictures in your mind. And the next time you sit down to eat, you think, oh, yes, this is what I said. I'm not going to eat that anymore. I'm going to eat smaller portions. I'm not going to eat between meals. What have you decided is going to help you in your health? I'm going to exercise. Going to go for a walk every day. Oh, I don't feel like it this morning. And that voice comes up into your mind that you've been speaking. I'm going to go for a walk every morning. And when you're lying there in bed, tossing and turning, that voice starts to come up inside of you. I'm going to go for a walk every morning. And you say, shut up. But it won't. Because you've been speaking it, been speaking. And when you speak it, it goes inside of you and it ferments inside of you. And eventually it starts to come out of you. See, it's not enough to plan. We need to start bringing those plans to life. And the best way we can bring them to life is with words. It's a process which the world has capitalized on and which we've kind of rejected because it gets into the demonic. And that's the concept of meditation. Meditation. All the big names and all the success people out there saying, I meditate for 30 minutes a day. You can see them sitting there in their yoga pose, saying, whatever. Have you tried meditating for 30 minutes? I can't do it for one. My mind starts to go all over the place. If that's what meditation is, sitting and concentrating and concentrating. You see, that's why you need words. You need words. When you speak words, then you can visualize. But meditation is not sitting there with your thoughts all locked up. See, meditation in a scriptural way actually involves speech. Meditation actually means to mutter to yourself. The world calls it the first sign of madness. When you start to talk to yourself, see, but who's going to say, hey, you, come on now, get out of bed. Go and do what you said you're going to do. You're going to have to hear a voice, and that voice is going to have to come out of your own mouth. You're going to have to hear yourself saying to you. You're going to have to give you instructions. So take your plans and meditate on them. That means you read them out loud and then you mutter them over and over again. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. You can do it under your breath. You can do it in the morning when you get out of bed. Pull it out. Put it on your phone or your tablet or whatever. Pull it out. Read it. Read it over and over again. Speak it. And if you keep muttering it over and over again, what happens? It sinks down into your memory. And when it sinks down into your memory, and it goes deep down into your subconscious, eventually it will automatically start to come out of you. So that the next time you're facing a situation where you should make a choice, where you should go in a direction, that's when that voice is going to come up out of you, see? Meditation. Every believer should be meditating. You should be meditating on the Word of God. Take a couple of scriptures and meditate them. You know, if you are faithful enough to read the Word every day, and you should be, try and find at least one verse there that jumps out at you. You think, now that's something I can put into practice. And just take that verse and meditate on it, which means read it over and over again and start to speak it out loud. Mutter it over and over again. You can take one of the scriptures I just read there. Just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without corresponding action is dead. If I don't take action, my faith is dead. Got to take action. Got to take action. Faith without action is dead. Say it over and over again. See it, feel it, taste it. Make it real. You'll find, instead of saying, oh, what is that plan again? Plan becomes live in you. Okay. Now, why do we need action? Because action creates a vehicle for the spiritual forces to be released into the earth. Action brings the power that's in your spirit. It brings it up out of your spirit and out into this world. And until it comes out into this world, that power will accomplish nothing. But you know, even speaking words is an action. Think about it. Even speaking words is an action. And if you do something often enough, it becomes a habit. See, so start speaking the words. When you speak the words, you find yourself doing. And when you're doing, you're actually opening the way now for that power in your spirit to come out and to create the very things that you're desiring. Now, a year is something very, very important. Timing. Timing. When should you start speaking? When should you take action? Should the one come before the other? Should there be a waiting period? How do I know when is the right time to start doing the things that I've been planning? Because you see, there is a right time. And if you do it at the wrong time, You're going to miss it. It's like firing a rifle at a target. Your target's moving about all the time. You take a pot shot, you're going to miss. You've got to wait until the timing is right. And there it is. Deer in the headlights. Staring right at you saying, here I am, shoot me. Okay. I use that as an example. I'm not into hunting and killing innocent creatures. But there is a time and a place. It's the right time. And if you go before time, you're going to miss. If you go too late, you're going to miss. You need to know when is the right time to release that power into the earth. Now, the first and most important thing is power needs to be at its highest peak when you release it. If you release a weak force, you may hit the target, but you're going to accomplish nothing. That is why you need to start by muttering and meditating and speaking all those things that you wrote down in your plans until you begin to feel a charge build up inside you, till you begin to feel your emotions stirring up inside you, until you see your circumstances coming together for that perfect moment for you to act now. Now, we don't do that, do we? If you act too soon, you're going to get very little results. Now, there are some people who think, what I will do is I will just act all the time. See, I'm just going to keep shooting until the target appears. Bam, 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 bam. Well, what kind of power are you going to be putting out in your shots? A whole lot of little weak ones. And when the target finally appears and you hit it, what's going to happen? Virtually nothing. Now, sooner or later, you're going to hit something. Some people, they just keep pushing on and on all the time. They are workaholics. I look just now at the temperaments. Workaholics say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm faithful. Not going to let my emotions get me down. I get up in the morning and I'll do it. Do my 30 minutes of cardio. They actually never get fit. Oh, they seem to have been so faithful. See, because as they've begun to prove, just ordinary cardio exercise at the same pace all the time never accomplishes much anyway. You need to change the pressure and the stress. You need to have interval training. You need to push yourself hard and then rest. Some people, they just work. And they work very hard. Their lives are just about the same now as what they always were, but they're hard workers. I gave an illustration way back in the way of blessing. I said, if you take a cork and you pull it back and you let it go against a big piece of iron that's hanging there, that cork's going to have hardly any impact on the iron. But if you keep releasing the cork and let it hit again and again, you know what eventually happens? The iron actually eventually begins to sway with the cork. So you're there. You're throwing your cork. Bam, 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 bam. You eventually going to get some results if you can keep up your persistence. Wouldn't it be better if we just took a bigger iron as it went bam and made it go shoot? Wouldn't that be better? We don't take the time to charge up. We don't take the time to build our spiritual forces. We just keep letting them out. A laser beam is light amplified. You shine a torch on something, it just gives us a bit of light. But if you take that same light and magnify it, and then beam it at something, it's going to burn a hole. Well, do you know how they make a laser? They actually take that light beam and they send it through a ruby crystal backwards and forwards like this. They put a mirror on both sides so the light goes through, it hits the mirror, and it comes back through the ruby crystal. And each time it comes through, it doubles in power. So the light goes backwards and forwards like that billions of times. And each time it does, the light gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then eventually, at the right moment, you just take the mirror out the way, or you make a hole in the mirror, and you know what? That light beam goes out and it becomes laser. And when that laser hits that object, it burns a hole in it. See, now a lot of us, we're taking our little torch and we're flashing it. Boom, 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 boom. It's got no power. You need to charge up the power before you let it out. How do we do that? We do that with words. We lay a groundwork for the main action, and then we take careful aim before firing. And after you've fired, you go and check the target to see if you hit it or not, before you go firing again. See, that's the sensible way to do it. Well, let me give you some scriptural examples of this, so you think this isn't just theory that I'm giving you. Jesus stood at the graveside of Lazarus. Some days before, they asked him to come. They said, your friend Lazarus is dying. Will you please come and heal him? Jesus said, sure, I'll come. And he waited a couple of days. In the meantime, Lazarus died. Why did Jesus wait? The same reason sometimes you need to wait. Because you need the right timing and you need the right power. Or did Jesus pray in the meantime? I'm sure he prayed and said, Father, what's going on here? What must I do? The Father said, you hold fire. You wait. Because when you go there, you're going to perform a miracle. It's going to have a far greater impact than the little miracle of healing that would have been performed if you just went and healed him. Jesus stood there at the graveside of Lazarus. He knew what he was going to do. But he waited for the right time. When the time was right, he began to initiate a process. He began to prepare for the miracle. He didn't just go off half-cocked. He stood there at the graveside and he said, roll away the stone. You want to go and look at the dead body, go and smell. Why did he do that? He was preparing for action. He was preparing for a miracle. And then he prayed and he said, Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always heard me. Jesus wasn't now coming to God in prayer and saying, please, Lord, do you think you could heal Lazarus? He'd already done all his praying. He actually prayed for the sake of the people so that they could see and learn and know. He already charged up the power. And he stood there and he opened his mouth and he let out his laser beam. Lazarus, come forth. Ba-bow. Instant healing, instant miracle, instant resurrection of a dead body. You've been waiting for God to do something? Have you been working hard trying to make it happen? Really working hard trying to make it happen? And it just never seems to happen. You've got your little cork hitting it against the stone all the time. It's time you learn to charge up that power. You need to meditate on your plans. You need to speak them. You need to build up and increase the template in your soul. Increase those pictures until you can almost taste it. You just know it's going to happen. You stand when the moment is right. When you speak, there'll be no delay. It's going to come instantly. Another good example is Joshua and the conquest of Jericho. Joshua had a revelation on what he was going to do. He'd prayed it through. He then prepared the ground for a miracle. He took the people and he said, you start to march around the walls, blowing the trumpets and praising God. Don't you open your mouth. Don't you say a thing. Don't you do a thing until I tell you the time is right. Ain't a delay. So they went round the walls every day for 7 days. On the 7th day, they went round the walls 7 times. And on the 7th time, Joshua said, now shout, because God has given you the city. And when they did that, guess what happened? The walls came tumbling down. Now, can you imagine Joshua bringing the Israelites to the walls of Jericho and say, okay, guys, we need to get working here. This is a big job. Everybody grab a hammer and a chisel, and let's start hammering against those walls. Eh? It's quite a thick wall. It could take us a while, but if we all do it together, if we do it consistently, we keep working at it, we're going to get through. Another way a lot of us want to do it. Well, those of us that are workaholics, yes, that's why we want to do it. Those of us who are not, we just take one look and say, it can't be done. We don't do it. You see, here in the scriptures already we see the right way. Now, what makes the difference between us succeeding in this or not? Why is it that some people seem to find it easier and others have a problem? Why is it that some people want to go like a bull in a china shop and others want to hold back? Very simple reason. It's called temperament. Temperament. Now, I want to tell you this. If you want to accomplish anything in life, if you want to succeed and see your dreams fulfilled and see your plans coming together, you're not going to succeed by yourself. All you solo players, you're not going to succeed by yourself. You cannot. Because you don't have all the strengths and abilities that it takes to accomplish these things. You're going to need outside help. And until you realize that you cannot do this by yourself, until you're willing to involve other people in your life, you're not going to see results. You know why? Because you don't have all the temperaments. So, well, I'm an apostle, God has developed all the temperaments in me. Yes, you are able, as a fully trained apostle, to flow in any of the temperaments at different times. That's why a lot of people who are apostolic think that they can do it all by themselves. Step up there as the big leader, leave everybody else behind, and try to do the whole job all by themselves. You know what happens? You can only keep it up for so long. You run out of energy, you run out of power, and your health begins to get to you, and you reach burnout. Eventually, the whole thing collapses around you. Because you try to be a solo player. Doesn't work. Now, each temperament has a very different approach in this. I'm going to show you them very quickly. When I do, you're going to identify yourself. See, the analytical plans very well. In fact, the analytical temperament is known as the planner. The analytical can make a plan to end all plans. Ask an analytical to plan something for you and to systematically lay out for you everything that needs to get done. And they'll give you a master blueprint. But the analytical does not have the willpower to put their plan into action. They need somebody else to get things moving. They need the opposite temperament, which is the expressive, to balance them out. The expressive is the total opposite, as we'll see shortly. How about the amiable? The amiable is the people person, and the amiable very easily recruits people to help. Gets everybody else wanting to help. But you see, the amiable is too weak to initiate the action because they're not capable of organizing it. It's just got everybody nicely motivated, and we'll sit and talk about the plan for months. And we'll all sit and get excited about the plan together. But we never get to actually doing it. Analytical needs to be balanced by the driver who's hardworking, who's work-oriented, and wants to get in there and do the job. Let's look then at these other temperaments that appear to give what's needed. The expressive motivates others. Expressive sells the idea, gets everybody sold on the idea. But the expressive is not a team player. Expressive runs ahead all by themselves. The expressive does not anticipate any problems. They get all stirred up and excited, and they say, let's go do it. Bam! And off they go. And suddenly there's this wall in the way that they didn't anticipate. Vop! They hit the wall. Well, if they'd had an analytical to plan it for them and say, now remember when you go out there, watch out for that wall. Watch out for that hole. See, if they'd worked together as a team, that could have been avoided. The driver gets working and is the best one to organize others. But the driver doesn't care about people. The driver only cares about the job. So the driver upsets people by putting pressure on them and demanding things of them and making them do things. And in the end, the driver says, I'm sick of waiting for you guys to do it. I'll just do the job myself. You drivers, what I'm talking about. I can't wait for you people to catch up. You're taking too long. You're too pathetic. You're useless. Just do the job myself, man. Yeah, again, you're going to reach burnout. You begin to wonder what happens when your health starts to fail, when suddenly things come into your life you didn't expect. Suddenly you find your heart is giving problems, and the doctors are saying, slow down. You're pushing too hard. See, you should have had an amiable there to temper it. Say, calm down. We've got people that we're working with. These are not machines. And you're not a machine. It's just care for people in the process. See, now, each one of these temperaments by themselves is going to fail. The analytical has a weakness of finding it difficult to make a decision. Analytical just can't seem to decide when to get going. They're forever planning and never doing. You're an analytical. I'll guarantee your plans are already written, laid out perfectly. Point 1, subpoint 1.1, subpoint 1.1, point A, point 2. All laid out, nice and in order. Perfect. Tomorrow you go back and you add a couple more points and you improve it a bit more. And the more you think about it, you think, oh, I forgot that, and we'll add that in. And we have this beautiful blueprint. And so you say, man, that's an awesome plan. So when are you going to start putting it in action? The analytical say, well, I don't think it's quite ready yet. I want it to be better. If we're going to do something, we have to do it right. We have to do it perfect. So, I'm ready to go, but I don't want to do it until the plan is perfect. Well, you know what? The plan's never going to be perfect. And guess what? The plan's never going to be carried out. The amiable says, I don't want to upset anyone. I don't want to put pressure on people. I don't want to say, hey, you do this, you do that, you do that. People may not like me anymore. People will think that I'm just being pushy and imposing my will on them. I want to be nice. I want to help people. So who decides, let's go? Each amiable is trying to be nice to each other, and each one is waiting for somebody to step forward and do it. And guess who's stepping forward and doing it? Nobody. Job never gets done. Expressive always goes off half-cocked, runs ahead of everybody else. Gets bored with the plan. Yeah, the same old plan, same old. Can't we just try something different? So the expressive comes up with new plans. Because, the plan was working. Nothing wrong with the plan, it was working, but it's boring. Same old job, same old grind. Can't we do something different? You have a look at a total express, you'll find they're always coming up with new ideas. And every one of those ideas will work. But as soon as the ideas start to work, they get bored with it and they say, I want to try something different. I want to try it a different way. They never follow through on what they started to do. The driver tries to do it all by themselves, soon faces burnout and just collapses. So, all of these have got some good qualities. But they've got to work together as a team. And if you want your plan to be fulfilled, stop thinking, this is my responsibility, this is my care, I've got to do it, because I'll tell you what, you're going to fail. Because you, at the most, can be a mixture of 3 temperaments. There's at least one temperament that's missing from you. And that missing temperament, that weakness, is going to stop you from succeeding. You're either going to have all the temperaments with all the strengths, or, which I'm afraid is the case, you're going to need other people to fill that gap. Well, how many people do you need in your team to fill that gap? At least 2. 2 people of opposite temperament. So actually the best place to start is in a marriage with a husband and wife that have come together, usually being opposite temperaments. See, because each temperament swings to the side temperaments. So if you take each one as total opposite, normal temperaments, and they swing both ways, between the 2 of them, all 4 temperaments are covered. You say, well, I'm still single, I'm not married. Then find a partner who's the total opposite temperament to you so that you can work together as a team. Now, the ideal team, of course, is 4 people, 1 of each temperament, one who's totally strong in each temperament. And you can allocate a job to each one. Your job is to plan. Your job is to go and prospect and get people to support us in this. Your job is to go and get everybody excited, go and sell the idea and initiate the action. And your job is to organize everybody and tell them where they fit. It's a complete team with all the temperaments. Once you got that together, now you need to mobilize the team. How do you mobilize the team? With words. Back to words. You need to talk about the plans. You need to do what they call brainstorming. You know what brainstorming is? Where you get a bunch of people together and each person adds their idea. Somebody says, well, why don't we try that? And that sparks off an idea, and the next person says, that's a good idea, but why don't we also do that? And how about that? And before you know it, you actually got a whole pile of brand new ideas coming together. Or you can try and brainstorm by yourself, and you can get the Lord's help and journal. And if you're a good analytical, you're going to make the plan the ultimate plan. It's going to take more than that. Then once you've got everybody motivated and you're talking about it, you pray about it, and you get revelation, then you've got to take some programmed action. Programmed action. Each person, that's your job, that's your job, that's your job. Now get going. Check on each person. How you doing? Are you having a problem? Is it coming together? Because if one person fails, the job's not going to be complete. So each person must be faithful. And the team is going to have to learn to communicate with each other. Oh, the old owner says, okay, this is my job. Off we go, and I do it. What do the rest of the team do? I don't care what they're doing. That's their problem. I'm doing my part. And if you step off the line and go in your own direction without knowing what the others are doing, you know what's going to happen? The team's going to pull like this. It's going to pull apart. The team needs to be coordinated together. They need to talk to one another. But I'm not really a talkative kind of person. See why words are so important? See why words are so important? Communicate with one another. Overlap with one another, encourage one another, motivate one another, and work together as one. And you know what? That plan's just going to jump to life. You're going to see everything starting to happen. So in conclusion, making plans for health, for wealth, it's not enough. You need to release the spiritual forces from within into your plan. Okay? Now, to do this, you're going to have to first tap into your spirit. And the best way to do that is with words. And then to motivate action, the best way to do that is words. Then finally, you need to release that power in action. Not a haphazard action, bit here and a bit there. Not an intermittent, well, we'll try it for a bit and then we'll stop and we'll try it again. No. Massive action, total action. But not excessive, just doing things. Start slowly and build it up and build it up and let it increase. Okay? Enlist the help of others. Have you noticed that diet and exercise are always done best in groups? Now you get programs like the Weight Watchers, where everybody's sharing, I lost so much weight and I did this. You try it all on your own. You say, I don't feel like restricting my diet today. And somebody else in the group says, I managed to go a whole week. And you think, yeah, I'm struggling after 2 days. You encourage one another. You motivate one another. People spend a lot of money going to a gym. And actually, you could buy the gym equipment and use it in your home. Okay, it's a bit expensive, but you could do it. We got a treadmill here to get on. But every time I have to say, hey, Les, pull yourself together and get on that treadmill. See, fortunately, everybody else here is excited about it too. And so while everybody's excited about it, sometimes it's easy for us all to do it together, all take a turn. We start to compete with one another to see who can go the fastest, to see who can go the longest. It adds to it. You need other people to help you. You can't do this as a loner. So work is always done best in teams. You've made your plans? If you haven't, sit down, start making your plans. So, well, I'm not really much of a planner. Find an analytical. Who can do it for you. Tell them what you want to accomplish and ask them to make a plan for you. They'll tell you exactly what to do, as long as you don't ask them to do it. They'll do a great job. Find other people who can help you in this. If you've been making plans for years and never got to put any of them in action, you need somebody who's got a stronger temperament to work with you, perhaps an expressive or a driver who can help push you, put a bit of pressure on you. People out there in the physical environment and sporting environment, they always hire a trainer to help them and push them. See, we need other people to help us. And we in the body of Christ should be there to help one another, not to condemn one another, put one another down. Let's be open with one another. Say, I'm really struggling to lose some weight. You always seem to be skinny. How do you do it? How do you manage to keep it down? How do you manage to stay fit? How do you manage to accomplish these things in life? Why is it you've always got spare money? I'm always straining at the last few coins to make it through. Let's help one another. The Lord will give us wisdom. He'll show us to put it together, and other people will help us. The important thing is, make your plans, put them into action. If you make your plans and you put them into action, your life's going to change. Your desires are going to be fulfilled, and you're going to start living the life of blessing the Lord intends for you. Father, I thank you for your word. Shared what you gave me. I ask you to take it and make it real to your people. Challenge them and motivate them and stir them. And Lord, may we care enough for one another to not condemn one another, to not compete with one another, but to help one another to rise up and to walk in this blessing that you have for us. Ask that in Jesus' name. Amen.